Hi, Alyssa. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. I'm so happy to have you. Yeah. Congratulations on becoming a mama.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, how old is your baby now?
He is 4.5 months.
Wow.
Uh, and what I've told people is that motherhood was a part of me that I had no idea was missing. Like I'd always wanted to be a mom, but I didn't realize until I actually became one how much of me I didn't have. It's really interesting. I think with the way that society is today, at least maybe some of my circles, just being encouraged to push off having children until later because I'm 35. No, I just turned 36. A lot of people would just kind of be like, "Oh yeah, kids, like just wait on kids." And I love all of my life. I've loved the life that I've lived until now, but there was just a lot of fear about becoming a mom and about how it would ruin your life or whatever. And it has just been the most wonderful thing.
Oh,
Absolutely just life-changingly wonderful. So,
that's
yeah.
so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. When I watched your birth video and you had said, we're a family, I like feel tears coming to my eyes.
Yeah.
So beautiful because I know what that is to become a family and to create your family. It's so special. And it's truly one of the most beautiful things that life can offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm actually crying a little
Yeah.
bit. Well, take me to the beginning when you first found out you were pregnant. What was that journey like?
My husband and I, a little bit of background, my husband is Turkish. I had met him when I was living in Turkey for a summer. I asked him to be my tour guide. We fell in love while we were traveling and then ended up bringing him over here as my fiance. We got married. We have been married for 5 years now. But last year, and actually kind of the year before that, we had, talked about having kids, but I knew that I wanted to work on my health. And so both of us actually, we did a lot of preparation before trying for kids. So we did a lot of fasting and I did some different cleanses and things like that. I just really wanted because I knew going into it that I'd probably be around 35 years old, which is considered a geriatric pregnancy. I don't feel old, but I'd never tried. I'd never tried to get pregnant. And so I was like, I don't know how hard it's going to be. And I've had a couple family members that have had some issues getting pregnant. And so I was like, the research says that it takes at least 6 months of trying to get pregnant. And so we had just done probably a year to a year and a half of a lot of prep work, getting our health in place. We went to Turkey, and Turkey is known for its medical tourism. So we did full body wellness visits. It was like very intense. It involved urinalysis. It involved an OBGY an appointment for me. All like chest x-rays, like I mean, so much stuff, like stuff that would have cost me thousands of dollars, cost about 300 in Turkey to do it all in this one day. And what it showed was that the only thing that was remarkable was it was my prolactin was high, and which is high when you're breastfeeding, but is not supposed to be high when you're not pregnant or not nursing. And so it's an indication of stress, and it kind of showed me that I had been maybe too intense in my fasting because that was and so it was like, okay, this is, and it can prevent you from getting pregnant, but we weren't trying at the time. So I thought I'm going to adjust some things. And so then by the time May of 2025 came, we were like, okay, like let's try. And 2 weeks later, I was pregnant. And so not yeah, so there was no like trying for us. It was like, let's see. And it was like, okay. So yeah, I got, you know, pregnant May, June, and then he was born middle of February. So yeah, I know it's not that easy for a lot of people. And so I say, because I know a lot of people it can take a long time or it takes a lot of work. If we hadn't have put the work into our health, I don't know if it would have taken us longer or if we just are very fertile people. I don't know what it is, but I do feel like I had a very good pregnancy in major part due to both of us, not just me, but both of us putting in the work because it's not just about my health. The
Right.
the husband's health is very important as well. So
Yeah, totally. Wow, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that story. Okay, so you find out you're pregnant and you're probably like, "Oh my god, that happened so fast," because you were kind of
Yeah.
anticipating it would take a little while. What was
Yes.
your reaction, your husband's reaction?
I was surprised, but I kind of had felt before I tested. I'd gone to New York City with my mom for a weekend. So I was like, "Mom, like you wanted to see the show, like let's just go." And I was supposed to start my period that weekend and I didn't. And I was like, "I bet I'm pregnant. I'm not going to say anything." But I also knew I couldn't keep it from my husband. So I had ordered these mugs off of Etsy that said mama and daddy, and they're clear in a Turkish culture, they're big tea drinkers and they drink them out of clear glasses. And so I was like, okay, well, whenever I'm pregnant, I'm gonna give him a cup of tea within this mug. So I had to wait until I got back on Sunday and I had to wait till Tuesday to test because that's when the mugs were arriving. I knew I couldn't that I couldn't like hold it in if I, knew I was pregnant. So I waited until the mugs arrived and then I tested positive, and then that night he came home from work and I gave him tea in his mug and he was like, "Oh my gosh, really? We're pregnant." So he was very excited. We were both very excited. But then like, "Oh my gosh, like we thought we had the whole summer, and just like, okay, this is real. This changes things." And so we definitely told people way earlier. Like we were 6 or 7 weeks pregnant and we told people. And then we told people like personally, but we didn't make an internet announcement until later. And a coworker of mine had a miscarriage around the same time that we both got pregnant at the same time. And so then we are like, maybe we need to be a little bit more cautious and like wait till the first trimester is over. But we didn't end up sharing with like our internet people until like we just got like mid pregnancy. We just got kind of like, we'll do it later. How do we want to do it? We'll do it. Let's look at it next week. But yeah, so everybody was very excited and had a lot of good support on both sides. And this was the first grandchild on my husband's side. So definitely a big deal. And then ended up being the first boy on my side. So
Aw. Yeah, yeah, so special. That's awesome. Well, I wonder if you wanna share a little bit about when you found me in your pregnancy. How far along were you then? How was that experience of finding me and joining the program?
yeah. So I was still first trimester when I found you, and it was Instagram. I'm not 100% sure how it happened, but I had probably again for like a year leading up to it, I had friends that were more like they were more natural. They cared about doing they wanted home births. They wanted delayed cord clamping. They wanted all these things and things that I just hadn't heard about, but they would share it. They were pregnant and I was like, "Oh gosh, that's really interesting." So then, like, you would have thought that I was having a baby like a year before I got pregnant because my feed was like a lot of like natural birth, like all this kind of stuff. And so I think Instagram was like, "She's pregnant. She's gonna probably love Victoria." And so that's kind of how I found you. So I was following you for a little bit. And then just really liked your style. And I think you probably posted something and I commented on it. And then you you and I ended up having a phone call. And I remember I was going for a walk and I was like, "Hey, sorry it's not a video call. I'm just like going, for my nightly exercise here." And so you and I talked about boundaries in relationships and because you were like, "What do you feel like is the biggest thing right now?" And it had nothing to do with like being pregnant. It was all I was just so worried about how to set boundaries in the relationships in my family and extended family and I was afraid at the time that I wasn't going to have control like over my family. And that control is such a weird word, but I was afraid that a couple of family members that especially with we have, some really different cultures that there would be offense and there would be people, wanting to do things a certain way that, you know, I didn't want to do them that way. I was afraid that I was going to not be authentic to myself and be resentful towards people. I mean, there's a lot of birth programs out there. So, and, I had definitely signed up for a number of free, the things from different groups. But when we started talking about all this like non birth related things, it was much bigger than that. I realized that something was different. And you invited me to one of the mom coaching calls. During that coaching call, I was like, yeah, I'm signing up for this. Like 100%. This is more than just like a birth course. And there were a lot of things obviously that are in your course that are in other people's courses, just different, the medical interventions, the risks of that. You have a lot of knowledge that you provide, but there was no other course that I found that was so holistic. And not just the course, but the fact that there's this personal relationship with you and then with other moms. I was like, "Oh, I'll join this, I'll jump on the call and see what it's like, but I don't know." And then as soon as I was in the call, I was like, "Yeah, this is it. I'm signing up for this." So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I actually so rarely let someone come into the call before they've joined, but I just felt like maybe it'd be good for you to just like check in and see what it's like. And so I'm glad that that resonated
Yeah.
with you.
Yes, it did.
And yeah, it's not just like a birth course. I think a lot of people think that what I offer is just a birth course, but it's not. It's like becoming a mother
Mm,
program, where we're kind of working through, we have boundaries, our relationships to our fears, our relationship to our identity as a mother, all of that stuff that can come up in pregnancy. And that's what
mhm,
people deserve. We live in a culture where we do this alone. We're all
mhm.
really isolated and we're figuring out alone and we're taking classes alone and just kind of learning. We need more than learning. We need sisterhood and
Yeah.
community and support. And that's what I, yeah, try to offer.
Mhm.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. I wonder if like someone were to be listening to this and they were like maybe thinking about joining the program, but they weren't quite sure, what would you say to them?
First of all, I would say do it. Do it. Because you think that birth is just about your body, and it is not. It is so not just about that. I had no idea how our like the spiritual component of it, as well as the soul component, like the emotional, mental aspect is, I would say, more important. And you just are not going to find courses that really address that. You're going to like learn about deep breathing and labor, coping strategies, but you're not going to learn how to deal with all these other things that will 100% impact your birth. Like if you have any type of fear, it will show up in your birth if you do not deal with it. And I have not found anybody else that outside of this course that can help you navigate those things so that you can have the birth that you want. And if things don't go your way, how to or the way that you want them to go, how to cope with that too. Because you also offer all the postpartum support as well, which is again not usually it's just like here's how to go through your birth and that's it.
I remember in your early labor, you had said that, or you were having some maybe prodromal labor and it was like pretty painful. And then I gave you some support. Like we did a quick call and I gave you some support and some tools for how to process that. And then you processed it. And then you said that active labor was actually not as painful,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I had gone Tuesday night, I had gone into prodromal labor, and it was, like, all night. It was sharp and painful. The next day, had a call with you, and I said, this was not what I was expecting," and you helped me kinda work through that I was dealing with control issues because it was not happening in my timeline. This was a Tuesday. I was really wanting my son to be born on a Saturday. I know that sounds funny, but it was like about my husband's work schedule and him having time off. And so then you're like, okay, like work here, we're gonna work through that fear that you have of your son coming in the middle of the week and not on a Saturday like you want him to. And so when we did that, then Thursday night when I went into labor, I never had the sharp pain that I had with the prodromal labor. Because I remember thinking during the prodromal labor, like, this is not what I signed up for. Like everybody was telling me like that there were like waves and this is not what these are not waves. And this is like I was so mad. I feel like I got, ripped off here that people have been describing something that is not this. And then when I went into actual labor, I never had that same pain. And I 100% attribute it to this emotional component of fear and control. And you gave me a number of strategies to work through that. I ended up having a lot of other fears too that I kind of journaled about at your recommendation. Things that I hadn't heard a lot of people talking about, but like I was like, what if I have this baby and I want to give it back? Like this is so permanent. And what if I regret this permanent change? Just a lot of fears that people don't really want to talk about. And I told them all to you, and you're like, those are all valid and normal and let's work through them. And it made such a huge difference then. I can't imagine going through my actual labor with the same kind of pain that I had during prodromal labor.
That's so amazing. I'm like, my eyes are welling up again, just like hearing how I was able to help you. Like,
Yeah.
it's always makes me feel so happy that I could help you. And it's just like such a beautiful testament to the power of our mental space when we go into labor and how
Mhm.
that just impacts the how that impacts the sensations we experience so much if we're bringing in that fear. You're right. A lot of moms have those kinds of fears. Like, what if I have my baby and I feel nothing? What if I
Yeah.
send them back? Yeah, and that can feel like a scary thing to talk about. Those are fears that I feel like our culture doesn't really hold a lot of space for anything but
Mhm.
joy.
Yeah.
So if someone is like, "No, what if this happens? What if that happens?" Or it feels like maybe, "Will I be judged if I share this with other people?" It's kinda hard to find that safe space to process those things, but once we let ourselves just feel however it is that we wanna feel and let those things come up and move through, then they typically move pretty smoothly. Yeah, I'm so inspired and so glad that that helped you.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's been such an honor and such a joy to support your family. I wonder, do you want to get into your birth story and share?
Yeah, absolutely. So, pregnancy beforehand, I was very blessed that I didn't have morning sickness. I didn't have gestational diabetes. There were a lot of things that just went very well. And so I had been planning for an unmedicated home birth. I'm in the Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee. We have a solid number of midwives here. And so I was very fortunate that I actually had to make a choice about who to go with because there were several people that I interviewed with and felt good, but I just had a gut feeling about one person in particular, so I went with her. This may sound kind of funny, except this is actually not really an issue for me. She never saw me naked until I was giving birth. There were so many things I had a lot of autonomy. Like if she needed to do any type of urinalysis or anything, she gave it to me. A lot was in my hands, and I felt very good about that. He was due February 7th. He came on the 13th, so he came, about a week after his due date and had that whole prodromal labor thing happening. Took, didn't go into labor, was really frustrated. So Wednesday I had texted my midwife and was like, "Hey, I had labor, pain, contractions, but they stopped. Can I go get Thai food with my friends?" And she was like, "Yeah, go get Thai food." So I got Thai food. I got a massage therapist who was very knowledgeable about things to start labor as well as prepare my body for labor. So it wasn't just like, let me massage your shoulders and make you feel good, which that's great too. But this was very intentional and I really appreciated having her as well for support. So after my talk with you on Wednesday, then I was like, okay, this baby's coming when this baby comes. So Thursday, I had noticed, maybe it was Wednesday night after the massage, I had noticed that I was going to the bathroom a lot. I was having not diarrhea, but loose stools. So I was having loose stools. And I remembered you saying that sometimes this is your body's way of like getting ready. And so I thought, okay, I am going to just not do anything today. And let me also just say that I had talked to you before about when to take off for maternity leave. I was working in healthcare at a nursing home as a speech therapist. And I was like, in healthcare, a lot of women will go into labor while they're at work. This is very, very common. And I was like, no, I do not want to do that. I was like, I guess I should just take off like a week before or whatever. And you helped me realize that's not a good idea. I took off at 36 weeks and I'm so glad that I did because no amount of extra paychecks could get me back that time that I needed to prepare my body, my soul for it, my pantry. I did so much like prep work before it during that ended up being 5 weeks before he came. If I had waited until I was in labor or I had waited until taking a week off before I would have been resentful and really feeling unprepared. So Thursday, I was like, I'm going to take a nap. And I slept for 4 hours Thursday afternoon and ended up going into labor that night at around 9 o'clock. And I was like, this is probably that prodromal crap again. I'm going to get in the bathtub. And then they did not go away. in the bathtub. And I thought, okay, this could be the real thing. So my husband was very excited, and we had chosen not to have a doula for this first birth because it was important to both of us that he caught the baby, that he was very present and actively participating in labor as well. So with every contraction, I would say, okay, I want you to hold me like this, and I want you to breathe in with me and kind of mimic the sounds. And if I start to make if I start to go up in higher pitches, remind me to come down and to lower sounds to reduce tension. So around I think 12:30, I had just gotten into bed, and he had just filed the form for citizenship. Like, he had just completed it. I was like, "You really should go to bed. We could be having a baby soon." And he did not go to bed, so he was up all night. But I got into bed and was asleep for maybe 30 minutes before my water just broke. And after that, I was like, "Okay," like, the contractions started to speed up. I ended up calling you at, I think, maybe 1 in the morning my time, which was, like, 10 o'clock your time, and I was like, "Hey, like, these are how far the contractions are apart. What do you think?" And you, like, heard me going through some of those contractions, and you're like, "It sounds like you're in early active labor. I don't know that you need to call your midwife yet, but you could if you felt like, you needed to." We ended up calling her. She said, "Call me back if they get to this point." They were not quite they were they were every 4 minutes, but they were only like 45 seconds. So
Yeah.
they were coming more frequently, but they weren't for very long. And I like to describe it this way. When For me, what contractions felt like was they did feel like a wave. So I knew that I would have probably 3, and I really focused on deep breathing. I had 3 breaths that were slow, where the intensity, I hate to use that word 'cause that's what everybody says, but the intensity of it was ramping up. And then I had 3 deep breaths where it was coming down. So that made it very manageable because that I knew I could just do 6 breaths and be okay. And it didn't when I think about what contractions feel like, they feel like holding a plank to me. And if you have to hold a plank for a minute every 4 minutes, you're gonna start shaking. You're gonna feel a lot of things happening in a lot of different places, but, definitely localized at the abdomen. So, like, that's kinda how I would describe it. It wasn't like a searing, ripping pain. It was never anything like that for me. It was just like I just could feel all the muscles not in my control, just tightening. And then as labor went on, they just got tighter and tighter and tighter. And so around 4 in the morning, we called my midwife again, and we're like, "Hey," and then she heard me going, through labor, through the contractions, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna head over there." She lived pretty close, like 20 minutes away, so not far. When she got to the house, she checked me. I was 9 centimeters dilated, so pretty good. She set up the birth pool, and we had decided where we wanted it. It was in our living room. We had the fireplace going. It was very just peaceful and just lovely. I think I've sent you those pictures before. They might be in my testimonial. Once I think I got in the water probably around 6 or 6:30 in the morning. So I know she got there between 4:30 and 5, I think. So by the time the birth pool was set up and things, that was the time that I got in. And I will say I threw up one time. I did not have any nausea, but all of a sudden I stood up and I was like, "I am gonna throw up." And I threw up one time, and it was great. My body had, like, been clearing everything out. I just had to just go up the last little bit. I didn't really want that, but I really didn't wanna poop during labor. That was the one I really didn't want, so I would take throwing up over pooping. And so which I know we had talked about too. Like, I had come to you one of the sessions and been like, "Hey, I'm really afraid of this," which did not end up happening, by the way, I think because my body had expelled it every way that it could. So, once I got in the birth tub, I it felt so good that I think my labor kind of stalled because I found I found this, like, I had my arms over the pool. I was like kind of sitting. There was a little bit of a ledge in the birth tub that was a little bit like a seat. So I'm on there, and I felt throughout active labor, I felt the fetal ejection reflex. And it is very cool, I will say. I was like, "I'm not pushing. My body is definitely doing this." And comparing it to, like, vomiting is like it is a good equivalent because your body just all of a sudden starts to push. If I could change something for the next birth, I would definitely move more. once I'm in the tub because I got into this position and I was like, this is so good. Don't anybody make me move. Don't anybody say anything. This is just too good. I fell asleep through transition. So I slept through the whole thing. I had been very concerned that because I've heard a lot of stories about how people are in transition. So I had been concerned that I was like going to turn into this like monster and like, just be mean and stuff. And I just slept through it, which was awesome. I'm very glad for that. We had a few hours of active pushing. I mean, he wasn't born till like 11 in the morning. And so from 6:30 to 11, again, transition was part of that. But then there were some things that happened that I don't love, I guess. So my midwife was kind of doing some directed pushing and it didn't feel good to me. I did like lean over the birth tub and push that way, but if I could again for the next birth what I would do is I would just rotate through certain positions instead of staying in the one and then just doing, over the edge of the pool. I would go through like a circuit of positions because what happened was for about an hour and a half, I did get out of the pool quite a bit because I was thirsty. I would drink a lot. And so I was like, I'm not peeing in this pool. I'm not doing it. I did get up and go to the toilet a lot, but that was kind of my only movement. And so for an hour and a half, his head was like right here to him. And she would, check heart rate frequently and everything, but he wasn't moving. And probably because I wasn't moving. And so, with the directed pushing, I was like, gosh, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel like the fetal ejection reflex. This doesn't feel good to me. But at the same time, I've got this baby who's stuck there because there were 2 midwives. They wanted me to, you know, try at some point, they were like, "You have to get out of the tub." The other thing they kinda panicked about was, like, the water temperature of the pool. They were like, "It has to be, like, 96 or 98 or something like that." And then it was cooling, and so they were like, "You're gonna have to get out of this tub." And I was like, "I'm not supposed to get out of this tub. I know this for a fact. Like, you guys have to figure out something." And I had bought Dollar Tree buckets. So my husband and the other midwife are like taking buckets of water and dumping them and then
Uh-huh.
adding like they're like boil I mean, it was like the 1800s. They're like boiling water
Yeah.
on the stove and like pouring it in. And so I was like, I'm supposed to give birth in this tub. But then at some point my midwife was like, he has not moved. I think you're gonna need to get up on the couch and give birth. And I was like, and that's kind of the clip that I had shown to you. She was like, you had a great, you were able to labor in the tub. This has been great. It's time to have this baby out. And so I ended up shifting into like a squatting position to go stand, and that's when he shifted. And I was like, "Oh, he's coming." I can feel this. My midwife came back around, Emre came to the front of the pool and I was shifting and they're like, "Okay, don't get out of the water now. Let me check." She put her glove on, put the glove down, and she said he's, born to mouth, so he had progress, and then he shot out the rest of the way, and my husband caught him. They were so, like, startled, and that was truly fetal ejection reflex. I did not push for that. My husband caught him, and he put him on my chest, and it took maybe 4 minutes or so of neonatal resuscitation. He did not cry. He got an APGAR of 2. His color was not good, but his heartbeat was great. His heartbeat was steady the whole time, but he didn't cry for several minutes. My husband was, like, kind of, panicking a little bit, and in my mind at the time, I was like, "They know what they're doing, it's gonna be fine." They were able to do almost all of the resuscitation with him on my chest, so I'm, like, holding him, I'm rubbing him, I'm like, it's fine. He hasn't cried yet, but he's getting stuff through the placenta and the cord still. They're professionals. Like now in hindsight, I'm like, that could have been really scary and really bad. But at the time I was like, they know what they're doing. This is fine. And it was fine. One of the things that you and I had worked on was having like I guess like you could call it an anchor, but like a birth, having your birth purpose, I guess, your birth intention because you talk about having your husband, saying life is worth it to you. And for me, I had thought, what do I want mine to be? And so part of it was that like life is beautiful because I mean, there's a lot going on in this world, but there's a whole lot of beauty to it. And to bring somebody into this world so that they get to experience the beauty of life is something really precious. But another kind of thing for me was becoming a family, because I felt like my husband and I were just like a married couple, but it didn't feel like we were a family until we had a child. And so when he was born, I turned to my husband. I said, we're a family. We're a family. Like this is what it. And it was just such a, like, every time my husband and I will watch that video together and we just tear up, like, we laugh and we tear up at the video, and the memory of it, and how special the whole thing was. We did the delayed cord clamping. My placenta came out maybe 10, 15 minutes later, and we had just this beautiful time. Then we transitioned to the bed here, and I had a number of clots that had formed, so she was like, put I it didn't people say it feels intense. I was like, "This is fine." She was like massaging my stomach, and it was like clots were popping out. It was like the weirdest thing, but it did not hurt. But I to just to be able to like be in our own home. Again, it was winter, it was beautiful. With the fireplace going, there were so many things that happened. It was just really the birth of my dreams. And yeah, and it was a major part to you. And I called you that afternoon and I was like, here's how it went.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful
Uh,
story with me. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm proud of myself too. I cut my finger 2 weeks later, and it was my husband was like, You just gave birth to a baby and you are acting so like like you cannot handle this cut on your finger." You know what I mean? Like I was like, "Yeah, they're not the same." I was prepared for the baby. I was not prepared for the cut on my finger. Like, it was. I don't consider myself like having a high pain tolerance at all, especially like just, yeah, I don't. But I was able to have an unmedicated home birth without a high pain tolerance.
Yeah, pain tolerance doesn't mean much really.
No,
If you prepare for birth, it doesn't matter if you have a high pain tolerance or not.
no,
Some
no.
birth isn't even like pain. Like sometimes it's like really intense, but it's not
Yeah.
like pain?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
definitely because I don't know that I had anything that I would truly call pain except for the prodromal labor. Even when he was crowning, that felt like, to me, it was like the most intense pressure I've ever experienced. So I compare it to like when you are hanging upside down on the monkey bars as a kid and all the blood rushes to your head. And eventually you're like, I have to sit up. I have to, but like you can't. That's what it's like crowning. Like it's like all this pressure and there's no way to, like, you can't just put your head up and have the blood flow go down the other way. That again, it wasn't pain, it was pressure, unlike anything I've ever felt, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did tear, but not in the way that I thought. Like, I didn't know you could tear this way. I think I think it was partly from him shooting out so quickly, but I also felt like I was able to relax every other part of my body but my pelvis. Like, I was able to I was like, "Yep, my hands are good, my jaw's not tight, but I'm not letting go down there because it is unbelievable pressure." But, because everything was so tight, and I had done some perineal massage, not a ton, so I would go back and do more of that, and I had done pelvic floor therapy before, and I was really glad that I did that, and that involved some push practice too. But when he shot out, I had a first-degree labial tear on the right side, and then I had a second-degree vaginal floor tear, and neither of them required stitches, and I never felt any of them, actually. And, like, I'm different, because my midwife, she was checking me, and she was telling me about it. I'm like, "Can you take my phone and, like, take a picture of it?" And so I can see it, and she was like, "Yeah, I can do that." Because, like, I know some people that are like, "I will not even look down there with a hand mirror until 6 weeks postpartum." Like, some people are like that, but I wanted to see, like, what everything was like. But I never felt that. Like, when I'd go to the bathroom, like, it didn't bother me. Like, I've never, had a perineal tear, but I think the tears that I had were, I mean, I never felt them. So to me, that's fine. I was not upset. The thing that I was that really bothered me was I had hemorrhoids, like,
Mm.
really, really bad hemorrhoids. And I'm sorry, I'm really big on the visuals here and descriptions, I guess, because this is what I wanted. But if you imagine like a popcorn kernel turning, like the popcorn kernel unfolds, that's what happened. And it's because I was pushing so hard. And nobody had ever talked about this either. So I felt like, didn't anybody say anything about this? But again, if I could do it again, I would not, I would have moved more and I would have pushed less. And I would have been in positions where I could be in that fetal ejection reflex more. I was like having to sit on pillows and all this stuff for like 2 weeks before everything really healed. So it made postpartum like I remembered like the second night, I was like, Emery, take me to the hospital. This is so bad. Like they could do surgeries for this thing. And he's like, we're not doing that. Let's DIY this a little bit. He found some things that would help, like sitz baths and other things. If I had not been pushing so much, I don't think that that strain would have been the same. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, and thanks for sharing all of that and thanks for sharing your story. I have to go here in a minute,
Yes.
but I wonder just to close if you want to take like 60 seconds to say advice you would give to a mom who's pregnant listening to this, what would you say?
My advice would be, first of all, sign up for the peaceful birth method course and sign up for the coaching, group coaching, because it is not just about your body. You can do all the exercises, you can eat all the dates and drink all the raspberry leaf tea. But if you do not have your heart and your mind in the right place, and if you do not feel spiritually connected to this birth, then you will just have all these unanticipated things pop up during your labor. Like your heart just opens wide during labor, and all the stuff that is in it that is unresolved will come up. And so it is best to have the strategies to deal with them as they come up because they will affect your body. They will affect your body. If you've got the tools to get your heart in the right place, even during labor and during delivery, then you'll be set. And the peaceful birth method is the way to do it with Victoria. I'm 100% all about this, you guys. It's great. So
You're so sweet. You feel like my biggest fan. I feel like
I am 100%.
oh, it was so beautiful to take the time to hear your story. Thank you so much for
Yes,
sharing.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be part of this.